Welcome to the 57th episode of our Crossing Thin Ice podcast series, where twice a month we tackle risk management topics. I'm Max Rudolph, and today Dave Ingram will lead a discussion titled Enhancing Creative Problem Solving with AI. Risk teams need to react to events that might be called emerging risks or black swans. AI can enhance, but not replace, the process to create strategies to deal with these events using creativity to suggest next steps or reframing the problem. The risk team maintains the primary role and uses AI for support. Dave will share his initial thoughts, and then we will briefly discuss the topic from a practitioner's viewpoint. Our aim for these Crossing Thin Ice offerings is to help with your ERM program and general risk knowledge. We encourage you to share with anyone interested in lifelong learning about risk management, and we welcome your feedback. As a reminder, nothing in today's podcast is intended to be investment advice. We are here to provide educational material on risk topics without getting lost in the weeds. Let's get started.
Risk managers who focus solely on getting the process right for the tried and true risks of the past are setting themselves up for trouble. That may be exactly what they're called upon to do most years, but every so often something radically different shows up. Something unexpected happens, and suddenly the rest of the management team steps back and looks to the CRO and says, "What are you going to do about this?" That something unexpected could be a new risk that doesn't look like anything on the current risk register. For example, think COVID. Or it might be a major environmental shift, like a disaster year, along with a 2.5% rise in interest rates. Or it could be a big regulatory or tax code change, like someone swapped out the board game's rulebook. The board still looks familiar, but the way you play, completely different. That's when you need creative problem solving, and that's not the same as ordinary problem solving. With ordinary problems, there's usually a known path, maybe a complicated multi-step path, but a path nonetheless. You follow it, and if you're careful, you get to the solution. Creative problem solving isn't like that at all. There's no well-worn path. Often, you have to build the path as you go, and that process is best described as an iterative spiral. The iterative spiral means working towards a solution step by step, but with regular pauses to ask, is this getting us where we want to go? You try something, you check it, maybe you move forward, or maybe you double back and try a different branch entirely. That's the spiral, and it's not always neat. It's a messy, dynamic process. Now, there are two kinds of creativity that come into play here. One is what I'd call combinatory creativity, putting together existing ideas in new combinations. The other way is more radical, generating an idea that's truly new, something that hadn't been imagined before. So where does AI come in? At the moment, AI isn't especially good at coming up with original ideas. And it's only fair to middling at combinatory creativity. But even with those limits, it can still be a powerful partner in the creative process, if you use it the right way. I think of AI, especially large language models, or LLMs, as assistants for human problem solving. There are 4 specific ways that I use the LLM when I'm tackling creative challenges. First, suggesting next steps. LLMs always give you ideas for what to do next. Not all of them will be great, but then not all ideas from humans are either. The point is, it helps a lot when you're staring at a blank page. You've got something to react to, and sometimes that's all you need to get started. Second, assessing steps. You can bounce an idea off the model and get an instant reaction. Is this viable? Does this even make sense? It's like a lightning-fast sanity check. Not always right, but often useful. Third, reframing after a dead end. This one's my favorite. I've built a list of 16 different ways of thinking, and I'll ask the LLM how someone thinking in each of those styles might approach a problem. One of those is actuarial thinking. It's a structured mindset Most of the time, it's about applying known solutions to known problems. One of the other styles on my list is adapter thinking. That one's all about flexibility and improvisation. So I might ask the LLM, how would an adapter think about this? And suddenly I've got a whole new angle to consider. Fourth, keeping track of the spiral. This may sound basic, but it's huge. The iterative spiral can get confusing. You're circling through ideas, trying different versions, and it's easy to lose track of where you were when things last made sense. I use the LLM as a kind of secretary. I'll say, okay, start remembering versions of this list. That way, when I want to go back a few steps, I can. During the process, that record keeping is essential, even if I never look at it again once I'm done. And when I am done, the LLM can often generate a rough draft to the final report based on everything it's seen along the way. The takeaway here is that you don't have to be in a big group to get the benefit of the AI. Just you and the LLM is often enough to speed things up, giving you feedback and helping you stay oriented. You can pause at any time, walk away, and pick back up hours or days later, right where you left off. And if you are working with a group, whether it's one partner or a full team, the LLM can be an active participant in that conversation. It reacts to what others say, offers new ideas, helps clarify disagreements. It becomes part of the team. We still don't fully understand how human creativity works, but the research tells us it has something to do with making unexpected connections, exploring alternatives, and refining ideas through iteration. That's also exactly what LLMs are good at helping with. So no, the AI won't replace you as a creative problem solver, but it will make you faster, more flexible, and maybe even a little more fearless in facing the unknown.
Dave, there are a lot of discontinuities right now. Your risk register likely needs to evolve. How should the CRO move forward using AI?
Oh, that's an interesting question, Max. I think there's a great role for AI to help the CRO with that. The starting point for that is to have a clear understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of your risk identification process, and then your own personal strengths and weaknesses, as well as your own thinking style. Then you can tell your AI assistant to look at the risks that your process does not necessarily pay attention to. If your ERM focus, for example, is highly focused on ALM and interest rate risk, ask the AI assistant to tell you about credit risks and operational risks that have been changing over the past year. If your thinking style is highly structured, sort of an actuarial style of thinking, ask the AI to use a more open-ended style, like the adapter approach. Ask for its suggestions of risks that have become more dangerous to the company over the past year, with an explanation of why it thinks that. Using the adapter style thinking here would cause the AI system to be more likely to look at the risks differently than they might have done a year ago. Then it is your turn to look at the ideas presented by the AI system and choose which of its suggestions merit further study. You should also plan to ask it about the risks that you think are now of either higher or lower concern. See what its reaction is. Make sure that you argue with it about what it's presenting. Challenge everything. Make the result should be a short list of possible changes in your risk register that you can then take away for scrutiny by your human risk management staff. It's a starting point, not an ending point.
Dave, I really like that response. I'm teaching a class right now, a university level class, and one of the discussion boards were um, putting out there, what skill set do you bring to a chief risk officer role, and what skill sets would you need to hire in subordinates to make sure that the risks are covered. And your answer here really helps out where I try to get them to think about the difference between a large company and a small company, where a small company might not be able to hire anybody, where they can use an AI assistant, especially your adapter approach. I like that in order to try to be more fully complete in terms of what the results might be. So I like that. Dave, going on though, moving on, how can we use creative AI to enhance tabletop exercises?
Well, you got to be careful there. You called it creative AI, and I think AI is fundamentally not creative. So you want to set your expectations a little bit lower there, maybe a lot lower. But while it isn't creative, it does have an exhaustive knowledge of a lot of details of a lot of things. And so that comes off seeming creative to those of us that don't know as many things as that. There's two ways, though, that you can use AI to enhance your tabletop exercises that I can think of off the top of my head. First is that AI is particularly good at creating scenarios. I sort of stumbled into that's actually a something they didn't anticipate when they were designing it, but they've since found it is a pretty strong product that AI can produce, which is scenarios. If you spend just a few minutes of your time specifying what kinds of scenarios you're looking for, it's not that good at coming up with scenarios. You just say, create me a scenario. But if you give it some direction, give it some boundaries on what kind of scenario you're looking for, the AI assistant can generate a dozen possible scenarios and give you a short summary of them. You can look at that list then and review it, get it to give you a moderately detailed description then or of two or three choices that you find to be particularly interesting or good potentials for your exercise. And then when you do narrow it down to a single choice based on whatever criteria are important to you for this exercise, the AI assistant can give you a massive detailed report on that scenario. I've had it create for me a 50-page report. That winds up being like the reference manual for the person that's coordinating the exercise. I wouldn't give it to anybody else, along with and then you can create like a 2-page briefing document for each of the participants. And that way the coordinator has that thick document ready. And if the participants ask a question during it, the answer's in there somewhere probably. The second thing you can do, similar to the last I answered here, you can use the AI assistant as one more voice at the table during the exercise. And in fact, it's a common thing to do to tell the AI to act as if they were a particular persona or even a particular real person. So, for example, if you want to have Steve Jobs join your exercise, Steve Jobs is a famous, well-known person, of course. So you don't even have to tell it who Steve Jobs is or tell it anything about the characteristics of Steve Jobs. It already knows that. And so if you just say, participate in the following conversation, we'll ask you questions and answer like Steve Jobs, it'll do that. Or you can construct an artificial personality using, for instance, the thinking styles that I mentioned earlier. You can assign it one of those thinking styles and say, you're going to be a participant. This is your thinking style. You can assign it other aspects of a role. If for instance, the person that was supposed to be there, that's your head of claims, is out sick that day, you can say, take the role of the head of claims. And that way you can have at least some input from that point of view. It won't be as good as the real person there. The AI doesn't have any experience doing this, but they can mimic it to some extent.
While emerging risks are always present, the world seems to be full of more surprises than usual right now, making it hard to deal with all of them. The tools from artificial intelligence can help create a flexible process, trying a variety of techniques that trigger ideas. We focused on insurance examples here, but this approach will work for all sectors. We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Crossing Thin Ice. If you found it valuable, please like, subscribe, and share with your colleagues.